Okay, so 3.6, we're solving applied problems in 3 variables. They kind of gave you some guidelines as to what you can do. So this first one, they've got in, I'm going to kind of walk you through this one, but they've given you an example of what you should do. Most people, when they've got word problems, have to kind of break it down, draw a picture, do something like that, right? So they said Owen invested $15,000 in 3 mutual funds. His total earnings and interest for the year were $800. He invested $1,000 more in Fund B than in Fund A, and he invested the rest in Fund C. The interest rates for Fund A, B, and C are 3.4%, 5%, and 6% respectively. Okay, so the first thing they kind of did is they decided what their variables were going to be. So they let X be the amount invested in Fund A, Y is the amount invested in Fund B, and Z is the amount invested in Fund C. If this was me, I probably just would have used A, B, and C because they're already letters and that's less confusing, but they've changed them to X, Y, Z, that's fine. Okay, so then they've gone back up here and said, look, Owen invested $15,000 in 3 mutual funds. So they took that and they said, well, that must mean that in Fund A plus Fund B plus Fund C, he put in $15,000. So there's the first equation right there that he can use. This is our equation number 1. Okay, he had 3 mutual funds that he put $15,000 in. So he had to invest all that in 3 funds. And so some went in A, some went in B, and some went in C. The interest earned is $800. We found that out in the very next sentence. Okay, well, the other time it talks about interest rates or interest is this last, and it says that 3.4% is for Fund A, 5% is Fund B, and 6% is Fund C. So that's why he's got those multiplied by A, B, and C. Now, why did, and hit, see down here, this says up here that it's 3.4%, and down here we've got 0.034. Why is that? This is a percent, right? And this is a decimal. So you don't have a percent key on your calculator, so you're going to have to change it to a decimal. How do you do that? Well, the graphing calculator doesn't have a percent key, but there might be a calculator. I mean, there are other calculators that do, okay? But if you take whatever your percent is and you divide it by 100, that will get it for you. So if we type in 3.4 divided by 100, it would change us to 0.034, which is what this is. So then they did 0.05. No, sorry. They did 5 because that was our next percent. They did 5 divided by 100 and they got 0.05. The last one was 6 divided by 100 and they got 0.06. So that's how we're going to need to have that. Also, you're going to want to put them in decimals because you're not going to be able to go to your graphing calculator and type in percents in the key there anyway. So we want to change it to decimals. Does anybody have this would be our second equation. Anybody have a problem with that one? Okay. Then we've got some more information that says he invested $1,000 more in Fund B than in Fund A. Okay, so he said, well, Fund B is Y. So they invested $1,000 more in Fund B than Fund A. So they said Fund A plus 1,000 must equal Fund B. So that's a third equation. And then it says he invested the rest in Fund C. Okay, so this was the first equation we found. This is the second equation we found, and this is the third equation we found. Okay, anybody lost by those 3 things? So, can I work this problem on my graphing calculator? This one is easy to work on your graphing calculator, right? Because you've got, remember we would have X, Y, Z, we got an equal sign, and then we've got our number. Well, in this first one, that would be 1, 1, 1, 15,000. This would be 0.034, 0.05, 0.06, 800. And this one might give us some fits. Why? We need it lined up, X, Y, Z, and it's not right now. But that's not hard to do. I can just, so let's, if we move things around here, can't we just subtract X and move it over here? So that would give us negative X plus Y is equal to 1,000. Are y'all okay with that part? If I did that, my negative X, this would be negative 1. I have 1 Y, so it'll be positive 1. How many Z's do we have? 0. So we would put 0 there, and then we would put 1,000 over here. So you absolutely, like, so you can work this on the graphing calculator, but you're gonna have to get everything lined up so you would know the answer when you typed it in. Okay, now, so I know some of y'all are going to do that right now, and that's fine. But so they didn't do it that way. They went ahead and they did some work on this problem. It looks like on equation 2, they multiplied everything by 100 so they could get rid of that decimal. So it looks like they took 100 and multiplied it by all of that. Okay, and then when they did that, they've got, how did they come up with this? I know it says it in words above it, but we've got a negative 60x minus 60y minus 60z is equal to negative 900,000. It looks to me like they've taken equation 1, x plus y plus z equals 15,000, and they multiplied it by negative 60. Are y'all okay with that? So that's how they've come up with this negative 60, negative 60, negative 60. But they did, when they did that, these two canceled out. And when you added negative 60 plus 34, you got negative 26. Negative 60 plus 50, you get negative 10. Negative 900,000 plus 800,000 was negative 100,000. So this became another equation we could use, negative, or number 4. Okay. So it looks to me like now they've taken equation number 3 and they've multiplied it by 10. So negative x plus y is equal to 1,000 is what we had. And they multiplied that by 10 to get this row. This is equation number 4, right? So they've added these together. Negative 10 minus or plus a negative 26 is negative 36. Our 10y, negative 10y canceled out. 10,000 plus a negative 100,000 is negative 90,000. Then they divided both sides by negative 36, and they got their first x, which is, so I'm gonna write this big over here, x is 2,500. Once you get that first thing, makes it a lot easier because they went to their equation number 3 that was at the top, this one right here, and said, oh, well, I know x now, so x is 2,500, so negative 2,500 plus y is equal to 1,000. They added 2,500 to both sides, and they got their y is 3,500. Okay. Now they said, I'm going to use equation number 1. X is 2,500, y is 3,500. I don't know z, but I'm fixing to find it. They added those two together, and we can subtract 6,000 from both sides and come up with the answer that z is 9,000. They plugged these back into one of the equations to check, and they decided that it did work. That was right. So the answer 2,500, 3,500, 9,000 is the answer they would type that solves all of those. Okay. Those of you who did take time to do this in the calculator, is this what you came up with? Okay. So I'm not going to ever ask you to do a problem like this the long way, even when they're a word problem, but I will, like one of the ones we're fixing to show you, sometimes it's just easier to do it the long way because the problem's easy, kind of like the one we're fixing to work. Okay, so you're going to need to decide, is this going to be easier to work in the graphic calculator, or is it going to be easier for me to just solve this problem? Okay, because sometimes the moving around everything to get it to line up is a problem, like the one I'm going to show you. Possible still, but it's maybe a little bit more difficult. So this problem says we've got a triangle, and we've got a triangle that's, the angles are A, B, and C. It says the measure of angle B is 3 times the measure of angle C. I mean, angle A, sorry. So, I think I can already write a sentence about that one, or the measure of angle B. So B is equal to 3 times the measure of angle A. I think I can already say that. That could be one of my equations. So on this first one, if I'm doing, my answer is A, comma, B, comma, C. It's not X, Y, Z because we're using different letters, but okay. Could I rewrite that to look like my A's lined up, my B's lined up, my C's lined up? My equals and zeros, what I'm saying? I can rewrite it. We'll talk about it in just a minute, but sometimes these are just easier just to solve. This is one of them I think that's just easier to deal with than having to rearrange everything, then put it in your calculator. Okay. The measure of angle C is 60 degrees greater than twice the measure of angle A. So here we got C is 60 degrees greater than twice the measure of angle A. The key here with these, if you've got 3 variables, you're supposed to have 3 equations. Okay, so we need another equation. What's a fact you know about a triangle and angles? They all equal 180. There's the fact you need to use. And there's almost always that sentence where you take all of the things, A, B, and C, and it's going to equal 180. It was kind of like in that mutual fund, there was a X plus Y plus Z is 15,000. Every one of these problems almost has this statement where they all add up to be something. Okay, that if you're missing one, that one's probably the one you're missing. Okay, so really quick, if I want to do this on the graphing calculator, this bottom row is already 180. Okay, this row right here, I'm going to come over here just real quick to work with this. So C is equal to 60 plus 2A. I could subtract 2A from both sides and get negative 2A plus C is equal to 60. So on the graphing calculator, I know that A would be, this is my A's, these are my B's, this is my C, this is my other number. So A is negative 2. I don't have any B's, so that would be 0. I do have 1 C and it's equal to 60. Okay, on this one, if I want it to go on the graphing calculator, B equals 3A. Well, I can make that happen. I can subtract 3A, get it over here with the B, so that would be negative 3A plus B is equal to what? 0. So that means that I would, on my graphing calculator, that row would be negative 3. I do have 1 B. I don't have any C's, and it's not equal to anything. It's equal to 0. Like it can work. Okay. So with that being said, I would have gone straight to just solving this thing, because here's what I'm noticing. B is equal to, are y'all ready? B is equal to 3A. So they told me that. So instead of this B right here, I'm gonna put 3A. They told me that C is equal to 60 plus 2A. So instead of this C right here, I'm gonna put 60 plus 2A. Okay, and A, I don't have anything for that. But the reason that this was kind of easy, an easier one, and I knew in my mind that it was going to be easy, is because all of the variables were in terms of A. Okay, so now I can just go, okay, I've got, this would be 1A and 3A, that's 4A, 5A, 6A. So 6A's plus 60 equals 180. Subtract 60, and I would get 6A is equal to 120. Divide by 6. And so A is equal to 20. Okay, well, to find B, so we found A. To find B, I would go, okay, well, B is just 3 times A, and A is 20, so 3 times 20, so B is 60. To find C, C is 60 plus 2A. So 60 plus 2 times 20, 100. And I would always go back and make sure it is 20 plus 60 plus 100 equal to 180. Does my answer even make sense? Yeah. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to penalize you if you use the graphing calculator to solve it. If that's the way that you, if that's the way that it is, makes the most sense and it's easiest for you to solve it that way, go ahead and do it that way. That's fine. Okay. Who needs me to slow down? Okay. So example 3 down here says the perimeter of a triangle is 63 degrees. So we're going, I'm 63 inches, pardon me. So we're going, I'm going to call this X, Y, Z. So I already know if I'm talking about perimeter that I can do, that means you add up all the sides. So there's one equation. The longest side is 22 inches longer than the shortest side. Well, I have to just pick one to be the longest side. It doesn't matter which one. So let's say I let X be the longest side and let Y be the shortest side. So X is 22 inches longer than Y. I just picked one. I don't know which one's the longest side and which one's the shortest side. So I had to just go with something. Then well, on this one, I need to stay with the something I went with. So I said X is the longest side. So the longest side is twice as long as the remaining side. Well, I already used Y for the shortest side, so that would have to be Z. Okay. Can I work this on the graphing calculator? Yes. You absolutely can work this on the graphing calculator. Okay, is that the easiest way? Maybe. I mean, it just depends on you. So like this one's a little bit more challenging because I'm noticing over here that up here, these other equations that we came up were both A's. And these are not both A's. One of them has a Y and one of them has a Z. So that might cause me some problems. Okay. Anybody have any ideas of what you think we can do? Can I make another equation where they all are the same? Like, in other words, can I move something around? I'm noticing there's X's over here for both of these. So what I'm trying to get at is, since both of these are X's, maybe if I could have the X on the other side. So let's solve this for, and if you want to work this on the graphing calculator the way that I told you and get everything lined up like it's supposed to, that's fine. I'm going to say that I can work with this really quick and get, instead of it being X equals 22 plus Y, I'm going to solve it for Y. I'm going to subtract 22. Say X minus 22 is equal to Y. I'm coming up with another equation I can use. Y is equal to X minus 22. On this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to solve this one for Z. I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2 and say Z is equal to X over 2. So here's another thing I can use. The reason that that is nice is because it's similar to up here whenever we had both of these had an A in them, right? When they both were in terms of A, I could plug them in and make everything be in terms of A. When both of these have X in them, I can plug it in and make everything be X. So when we write down our equation, X plus Y plus Z is equal to 63. Okay. Instead of X, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to leave it X. But instead of Y, I know that Y can be written as X minus 22. And I know that Z can be written as X over 2, which is just, this is the same thing as 1/2 X. Are you okay with that? So all I did was replace the Y with X minus 22, and I replaced the Z with X over 2. So now I have 1X plus another X, and I'm going to rewrite this as 1/2 an X just so it looks easier to deal with. So 1X and 1X and 1/2 an X, what is that, 2.5 X's? Is it okay if I leave it as 5 over 2? Y'all know that's 2.5. Okay. Everybody. So, or you can write 2.5 instead of 5 over 2. This is just going to be easier to deal with at the end. We know how to do this. We could add 22 and get 85 is equal to 5 over 2X. Then we can multiply, or we can divide by 5 over 2, which is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. Divide both sides by 5 over 2. I'm just going to kind of draw a line so I don't get lost. X is equal to 85 divided by 5 over 2. Is that 34? Yeah. Okay, it's 34. So X is 34. Okay, Y is, do I have any equations up here that tells me what Y is? Y is X minus 22, right? We could do that. Y is, it's X minus 22. Make sure I write everything. So Y is 34 minus 22. So what, 12? And this, they are all inches once we're finding them. So I can use the top row, the X plus the Y plus the Z to figure out the last one, because I know X is 34. I know Y is 12. I don't know what Z is. So 46 plus Z is equal to 63. Subtract 46. So Z is 63, take away 46, 17. So when I type this in my calculator, right, we know that we've got, these would be our three, or not our calculator, but the computer. These are going to be the 3 answers. And I think they're going to have them like this instead of parentheses on this one. Okay. So I know at this point that some of you are overwhelmed. Okay, because you're like, these are word problems, this is gonna be difficult, but I do want to tell you that the word problems that you'll be working are just like these. So this is like a similar question. So you should be able to follow along if you're following the steps and be able to pull this through. Okay, we've got one more of these. So example 4 says the sum of the average amounts America spent per animal for veterinary expenses for dogs, cats, and birds. So we've got our 3 variables. Let's say X, Y, and Z. So average amount spent at the veterinarian for dogs. Same thing for cats. And then the same thing for birds. It says that all of those added together, so X plus Y plus Z, it says that it was $290. But the average expenditure per dog exceeded, so the dogs exceeded the sum of the cats and the birds by $110. And then the amount spent per cat is 9 times that spent per bird. Okay, now before we were kind of trying to get everything in terms of one variable. So when we do that, one thing we could think about doing is, so I've got X plus Y plus Z is equal to 290. So X is equal to Y plus Z plus 110. That's what X is. So I could come here and say Y plus Z plus 110 plugged in for X. Now, keep in mind that you are still allowed to try to move the equations around and use your graphing calculator to solve these as well and to check yourself. But then I've got plus Y, and Y is the same thing as 9Z. Right now I'm just going to kind of leave it alone. So plus Y plus Z equals 290. Okay, another thing that I'm noticing, so if we kind of work with this one, there's a lot of things you could do here. This is just one option. So if I kind of combine this, I would have 2y's plus 2z's, because we've got this y and this y, this z and this z, plus 110 equals 290. So I could subtract 110 from that, and I would get 180 equals 2y plus 2z. Okay, now I really need this just in terms of one variable. And this right here would be useful because I could say, okay, 2y, but instead of y is 9z. So 2 times 9z plus 2z equals 180. That's going to be 18z plus 2z equals 180. So 20z equals 180. Divide by 20. And z is equal to 9. So that means that we've got our answer that the average cost for the birds is going to be 9. Now, once I've figured out that z is 9, I can come back up here and say, well, y is equal to 9z. And if z is 9, then 9 times 9 is 81. So the average cost of the veterinarian bill for the cat, $81. Once we've got that, we're done, because we can figure out what X is by doing a lot of these. We could use the top one or this bottom one. The bottom was a little bit easier because it's X plus, the second one, I guess, X equals Y plus Z plus 110. Well, Y is 81, Z is 9, plus 110 is 200. So that means X is going to equal 200. Okay, and so that is the end of this section that's 3.6.